Hi, welcome everyone back to another edition of Raising Awareness with Vincent Sissom. Vincent, I think this is about our fifth show. Eighth? But I got knocked out of one. I'm not going to talk about that one. There was another host that took over last time. I think Lucy will be back next time. But thank you for having me back on as your host again, Vincent. I appreciate it.
I do admit you do seem to be more relaxed than Lucy was.
Well, don't worry, Lucy. He's just it's constructive criticism if you're watching out there.
Yeah.
Vincent, what have you been up to lately? We haven't talked in a while. And what have you been doing specifically?
Nothing really, other than still working at Target.
Right.
I left Benedictine a while ago. And
What does that mean, left Benedictine?
Basically, I'm no longer getting paid by them.
You're not getting paid by them. You went out and kind of on your own. Is that right?
More or less. I'm not working at Target.
Right. Well, I've seen you out there, yeah. And how long have you been doing that?
Since February 28th, 2017.
Right, yes. You've been there, not quite a year and a half, but yeah, that's that. But
yeah.
How do you like it?
It's good.
Yeah? Is Target busy?
Depends on the day of the week and the time of year.
What's the busiest day?
Saturday.
Weekends, Saturdays? Yeah.
Yeah, Saturday by far. Like, if you're called in early,
yeah,
it will almost always be a Saturday.
Is that right? Right. And then, you were hired there a year and a half. We're going to talk a little bit about hiring practices and things like that in this show. What should someone consider when they're hiring someone with a disability? What should a person who's doing the hiring consider?
A few things. The biggest one, ironically, will be how many hours the person can work. Because 99 times out of 100, if someone has a developmental disability,
yeah, they
probably have SSI or SSDI.
Okay.
Which pretty much provides them with insurance and money, but it does mean that they can only work a certain number of hours.
Okay, right. So they have to be flexible on that.
Yeah. So that's the biggest one. Another thing to consider is how severe the disability is, because it will be harder for the person to do certain tasks depending on their disability.
Uh-huh.
So one thing I would recommend to any employer is always look to emphasize the person's strengths, because
what are your strengths, do you think, when they were talking to you at Target?
High energy, friendly, great, relatively good social skills.
Right.
Which is ironic for someone with Asperger's, but that's just a thing I've trained in.
Right. You've worked on that.
Yeah.
Like we all have to work on it. Some harder than others and at different things than others. But yeah, no, you have to work on things. Right. So, and then you have a third. It was the how many hours they can work, whether their insurance, how their insurance works, and how many hours they can work. And then what was the final one?
The final one is making sure that you can have flexible hours again, but this time, because they're not always going to have transportation.
You're not always going to have transportation.
Yeah, so if take my example, I primarily use the bus system, so they can't really have me working closings, so they have to put me in the morning.
Okay, so in addition to the number of hours that they work, the hours that they actually do work would have to remain flexible with the employer.
Yeah.
Right. So I think if anybody's out there watching and who has a situation like that, that they should consider, take those into consideration when hiring someone. What is it like when you're actually working? How do people treat you when you're in the work environment? How do you feel about it?
For me specifically, it's not too bad. People don't really realize I am disabled.
Sure, right.
But my coworkers love the fact that I'm much more creative.
In what way?
Like, I'm always coming up with ideas for how to improve things and the such, and it's...
Now, at the corporate level, because it was Target, you're talking about the corporate level, and you come up with an idea about how to improve it. I'm sure they have to go through channels to try and get things like that improved. Has one ever worked out for you?
Not yet.
I remember I had one at Lowe's one time when I was probably younger. I was working, and they had the batteries tucked in the very back, like little small AA batteries. And I said to them, "Why would you put those in the back when there's something that somebody could actually like steal if they wanted to? And then you can't see them, but if you put those up front, they're a lot less likely to get stolen." And I don't think they ever listened to me on that one either. It takes a long time.
Yeah.
Like, what's an idea you had?
One would be involving the fact that... trying to remember.
That's all right. That's okay. That's okay. They'll come to you. That's come to you. But in any case, they like the fact that you bring ideas to the table and aren't afraid to say them. Actually.
Yeah.
That's great.
Easily.
Because I think that's something in workplaces is that people tend to not bring up stuff because they think, oh, they're going to think it's a dumb idea and that sort of thing. So it's great that you do that.
Yeah, and my employers tend to enjoy any suggestions I make, and some of them don't need to go through corporate channels, so
they can just do them
and test them out and see if they can.
That's cool. That's great. Wait, well, next time I see you in there, I'll ask you for any of your ideas that you had.
Okay.
And then just real quick before we take a break here, how can they make the work environment? Is there anything that employers have to consider about their work environment when hiring someone with a disability?
One thing to consider is that, again, emphasizing the person's strengths will be important because people with disabilities tend to want to improve, and they'll work on their weaknesses in an area. But
are you good at working at your weaknesses?
Yeah. One of the areas where they put me is car attendant, and they did that because I had high energy.
Right.
So I've improved in that position, and while they haven't gotten me to really do any other areas, they have enjoyed
the work you've done there.
Yeah.
Right. Now, do you want to try and do you see any other areas in Target where you'd like to go?
One area I'd like to go is electronics.
Electronics.
Yeah.
Right. So that's awesome. Well, I guess it's air conditioned back there too in the summertime. It's probably nice.
The entire store is air conditioned.
Right, but the cart area isn't. That's good. Outside.
Well, outside, yeah.
Yeah, it can get hot out there.
Yeah.
And do you think your gaming stuff you've done with gaming in the past, which I think we're going to talk about a little bit, has that helped you as far as understanding electronics and?
Yeah.
Right.
Like one time, I was helping a guest when I was off the clock, and they were trying to decide a game for their son's birthday, and they were having a hard time figuring out a game that would be appropriate for them while still be something they like.
Right, sure.
So I recommended a game to the father, and he got it for his son. He comes in a week later and texts me personally.
Is that right?
Because the son loves the game.
That's awesome. We're going to end that segment on that great note. Once again, you're with Vincent Sissom of Raising Awareness. We'll be right back.
We are MCTV, Midshore Community Television. We want your help in making our station more robust so that we can better serve the residents of Talbot County. So, how can you help? If you are already making video content, submit that content for broadcast to the station. It's free! Are you involved in events, shows, or lectures that would be of interest to the community? We can work with you to figure out the best way to capture those events for airing on MCTV, be it training, equipment rental, or hiring our production staff to film at a reasonable rate. Do you want to produce your own show? Let us help you get started. Come be a part of this valuable community resource. Email the station at nick@avalonfoundation.org or visit us in the basement of the historic Avalon Theater at 40 East Dover Street in downtown Easton.
Hi, welcome back everyone to Raising Awareness with Vincent Sissom. We are back in the second segment. Thank you for watching. Vincent, we want to talk, this is our
Eighth time,
but this is our current events section. We get into current events here.
Yeah.
This is the one time I get to actually talk to current events in a public forum, and it's kind of fun for me to hear what you've got to say. So, but before we get to that, we're going to talk about a couple other things real quick. We were talking about having a job, and again, if you're an employer out there, consider looking for new hires. People with disabilities, they need to have a flexible schedule. They can only work a certain amount of hours because of insurance. But turns out they, have, in Vincent's case, great ideas for stuff, and also, helping customers out as well. So, those are just things you need to consider for anybody out there watching who may want to be looking to hire for their business coming up soon. So, Vincent, we wanted to talk here real quick. Educational opportunities for people with disabilities. I know that's a big thing with you.
Yeah, one of the biggest places for helping someone with a developmental disability, depending on how severe it is Benedictine. Now, Benedictine is specially trained to help people with disabilities, and it will work. And they will get the person to at least get a high school diploma. They're an all-encompassing K through 12 school, so they get the person from the start all the way to graduation.
Right. Any other places besides Benedictine?
From what I understand, and I believe this is a school requirement nowadays, it was a requirement in Kent County when I was growing up. Was a sort of place where you could get social services in the school, which I assure you, if it wasn't for some of the tutors they had in that, I wouldn't have passed my English classes.
Right. How did they help you?
Like, they had tutors come in, they had teachers come in, former teachers that helped.
And what was your specific thing that they helped with in terms of learning English better?
Just being able to understand the terminology.
Right.
And one of the things that program did back in Kent was they allowed the students to actually tutor some of the other students.
Yeah, right.
And the funny thing was, one of the people I was tutoring in math, she was tutoring me in English.
Is that right? Right.
Yeah, so...
Yeah, that student-on-student thing is... And how did you... I'm not going to say better or worse, but did you like that just as much as a regular tutor?
Yeah.
Right.
I liked it more, I think, because we were helping each other out in the areas we were weak in.
Right. Right, sure, right. And now, this question, I don't typically really... You want to talk about diagnosing and maybe the wrong diagnosis for someone, which we've gone over before. And I guess that's something you battle with, right? I mean, you always... People with disabilities battle with sometimes they're not diagnosed correctly.
Yeah.
Is that right? Is that...
That's less common nowadays when the doctors actually know what to look for. But it's still possible.
Well, your example here is you have a son who you bought a new video game for, PlayStation 4, and or his daughter, whoever, I'm not sure who.
Son.
So then they didn't play with it anymore, and you're wondering if they were ADHD or they just diagnosed. How does that help someone who's diagnosing what disability you have?
The parent was wondering if the child was misdiagnosed because he was just playing it far less than his other gaming systems, and I had to ask how many games does he have for the other systems compared to his new system. And when it was discovered that he didn't have that many,
That's why he was playing it.
played it less.
Less.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay. So the parent was worried about that, and then they called you and asked you a question about it? Is that...
Yeah.
That's great.
They were wondering if he might have been misdiagnosed, because every other time that the child had gotten a new console, he was absorbed into
So maybe
it
he had collected too many games on this one console where he didn't want to play the other one because he didn't have as many games on it. That was the whole situation?
more or less.
Right. Very interesting.
I mean, the kid is also a big-time PC player, and he didn't want to play his new system that much, but he did end up playing it more and more once he got a couple more games.
We're going to segue here into the topics, the current events. Does he or she or you, do you play on Twitter?
I don't, but the kid does.
Right.
And he posts screenshots of his victories in online gaming.
Uh-huh.
And that's part of the reason why he didn't really play on his new system, because he hadn't figured out how to share his victories on this system.
So it was all that stuff. So the parent was just worried because they cared, and then you kind of helped them with that situation.
Yeah.
That's awesome, Vincent. That's awesome. The reason I bring up Twitter is because I want to talk Donald Trump. How's he doing for you?
Well, World War III hasn't started, so that's basically the only requirement for his presidency for me. If he doesn't start World War III, he did fine as a president. I don't care. Though it does bring up an interesting topic, because net neutrality has
internet freedom you were talking about. Yeah, net neutrality
been basically demolished by the people who were regulating it, and now Congress is trying to erect a bill that will preserve it. But something about Donald Trump has me worried, because apparently he's always been in favor of removing the net neutrality rule.
And real quickly, can you explain net neutrality? For anyone who doesn't know what we're talking about exactly. I mean, I sort of know, and I'm sure if you explain it would jog my thinking. Basically, it keeps bigger companies from seeing what they want you to see. It's FCC regulated,
that's
right?
That's part of it, but it's also the fact that with net neutrality gone, companies can now charge for specific things you don't.
Prime information,
Yeah, so like say you have Steam, that is required. You need to buy our gaming package to access Steam. That's $5 more a month.
Right.
If you want to get on Facebook, Twitter, all that's going to be another $5 to $10.
Right. Yeah. So, I think we don't have time to discuss net neutrality here for the whole process. I'm not saying we know enough about it. I just know that the internet. It feels like we're getting that might be taken away by this passage of this sort of.
Well, it's already been rendered mute, and now it's up to Congress to get it reestablished right now.
You want a message for anybody about net neutrality right to the camera there before we head off?
Basically, if you worry about what you're able to do on the internet, I recommend you call your local congressman, or right now it's in the House trying to make a bill, and see if you, and make sure that they're voting to preserve net neutrality, because it will make anything you do on the internet a serious problem. So, if it doesn't get passed. So, please go to call your local congressman, tell them
Vincent said so. Nothing wrong with that. That's great, Vincent. I mean, that's great. I know it's an issue. We'll lose it, and we'll forget about it, and then we'll be all wondering what happened and that sort of thing. So I'm glad you bring that up. Anything else before we go?
There's another thing in the EU, European Union, called Article 13 that will more or less shut down any small to medium-sized news agency because the article will erect a tax on links.
Oh, right.
So, and while it wouldn't affect us directly right off the bat, it will set a precedence if it does get passed. So, if you're worried about your internet being problematic, go contact your friends in Europe and have them make sure that they're telling their Congress.
And that's easy to do because you can talk to anybody in Europe with a flick of a switch now. And I guess maybe don't want to get that taken away from us. Well, Vincent, thank you very much for coming on. Thank you for having me on again. Lucy will be back next time. I guess we'll give her another shot.
Well,
as long as her face gets clear. She's had a car accident, and her face didn't get messed up in the car accident. That's not what we're saying. But she got some poison ivy, I think, on her right side, so her left side. So as long as she comes back and she feels good in front of the camera. But if you ever need me, I'm here.
Yeah, I was thinking maybe next time, maybe both of you could actually be here.
Maybe we'll try it that way next time.
Yeah.
This has been Raising Awareness with Vincent Sissom. Thank you very much for watching. We'll see you next time.